Hello everybody, this is Joe Crisera and welcome to our webinar, Designing a Business Environment, specifically for the service business. Julie, we're going to go over an action-packed segment here, and this could be very valuable for people who are trying to figure out how to create some sort of order out of all the chaos of a service contracting business. Why is this such an important webinar to do?
Well, I think it's one of the questions that we get asked a lot of times. If a contract, I don't want to say we get asked it. Actually, a contractor says to us, "I wish I could just start all over again, start from the beginning, and redesign my company the way it should have been redesigned, the way it should have been designed to begin with." So I feel like this is really important to address that, because even though for most of us we don't get that opportunity to just go ahead and have everything in place right from the beginning, we kind of learn as we go ahead. This is really going to help you, or those of you who need that help, to get things back in order at this point, and really a fresh start for everybody.
And Julie, what I want to go over today is that really emphasize one thing, that a lot of times people think design the environment. They look at it like the environment is all one thing. But if you looked at your company actually a little differently, almost like you looked at it like a theme park, you'd see that a theme park has different themes to it. Like, for instance, there's the entrance when you first come to the theme park and what impression the theme park is trying to give to the visitors when they first show up. Then there's different parts of the theme park where you may walk in and they have Tomorrowland, or they might have the Frontierland, or they might have different. And so your contracting business is very similar to that. There's an environment where people walk in. There's an environment where the customer service reps answer the phone. There's an environment for dispatchers. There's an environment for the warehouse, for the service techs, their trucks, for the bookkeeper, and for the managers. And there may even be other environments. And so hopefully this will be a starting point to give you an idea of the specific environments in the intention that you're going to design your business. Because when the business is not designed right from the beginning, it leads to chaos and it leads to frustration. And a lot of times people start a business with a certain vision in mind, and that vision never gets communicated to the employees. And then that creates frustration, and many times makes people want to just walk away from their business. Make sense?
Yes, I think that's very true, and I think that's a good analogy on comparing it. So I think today is going to be great because you broke it up into seven basically sections or 7 steps that you can do to go ahead and get that environment back in shape at this point.
And what we do have is for everybody is we have a complete report on this where it has all the detail, and we're going to give that to you free for members of contractorselling.com. You're going to get that as part of a download you'll receive. So what we're going to do on this webinar, though, is just go over the highlights of each area. I really don't want to go over the little small micro detail of each area for the webinar, right?
It would take a long time. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like walking you through Disney World and trying to show you every single detail of that, the way they run.
It'd be like trying to do Disney World in an hour.
We couldn't do that. There's no way. Yeah, I probably couldn't get out of the parking lot in 1 hour, right? But that being said, that's even one of the environments that they set is the parking lot. It might be an additional environment you might have at your business. The parking is always a consideration for any kind of a contracting business.
Exactly.
So let's go ahead and start with number 1, the first environment, which is building the entrance environment. So this is the place where people walk into your business, and it's the first impression. So Julie, what's the first thing that we want to make sure in our checklist to kind of rate whether we're doing this the right way or not? What's one of the first questions we want to ask ourselves about this part of the environment?
I think that's an important thing to point out on the worksheet or the download, if you have the download in front of you, that what we've kind of done here is put a 1 through 10 scale, right? So if you feel like you're doing really good after we go through all of these, you're rating yourself, an 8, 9, or 10. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're not doing so good in this first section, then you're going to know it's an area that you need to work on. So you might find that you have some areas that are better and some areas that need more work.
Right.
Okay, so the first thing you have, back to your question, so the first thing we have is you have designed what you're trying to communicate about your business when people first walk in the door.
Yeah, and so what are you trying to communicate about your business? This is the first thing that people are going to see when they walk in. So if you have a milk carton full of old black iron fittings that somebody just dropped off and left in your front entrance of your building, or some old parts that people threw away from 1950 and they're just sitting on the table somewhere on the counter. This is what you're communicating about your business, that you're stuck in the past and that all these parts and fittings, they're just all over the place. There's really no value to it. They just hang out and that type of stuff. You know, UPS boxes, shipping things that are, you know, typically when you walk into a contracting business, just kind of a mess. You see what I'm saying there?
A lot of the contracting businesses that we've seen have been a mess. Yes.
Now, you have to ask yourself, is a contracting business a place where people are regularly coming in? I mean, this is not a Starbucks. We're not having people who are regular visitors every day coming into our shop. So it's not, you know, the destination of our service business is usually in people's homes. However, we do have, for occasionally, different people who come in. Julie, let's go over the list of people that we want to make sure we're appealing to and what we're trying to communicate to those people. Like, so what are some of the first group of people that you see would come into the business and be able to make an impression on those people?
Well, I was going to say initially just employees, current employees coming into the business. You know, even your current employees need a place to come in that's a pleasant environment as opposed to an environment that's laden with boxes and tools and mail and
kind of a
and
hassle
things like that.
and a mess. Yeah. So if they see the initial environment as a mess, they're like, well, if this is a mess, my truck could be a mess and my warehouse could be a mess because the office is a mess when you first walk in. So in a way, the entrance of the place sets the tone. It's kind of like the showcase of our company, right? And so if this is the best place that we're trying to show people when they first walk in, you know, what are they seeing? If they're seeing a bunch of old garbage on the floor or some stuff in boxes been sitting there for eons, then it makes it look like nobody cares about anything. Nobody takes the effort to move something. They just let it sit there. You know?
Exactly, and we always use the old expression "monkey see, monkey do." And that's generally what happens when you have that kind of a situation. If you are comfortable with having, you know, things thrown around your office or just your office being a mess, those are the employees that you're going to attract. The employees that are comfortable with, you know, things being messy, as opposed to the employees who are neat and clean and tidy and are going to go into customers' homes and respect the customers' homes in the same manner.
Well, Julie, I agree with you. I think if you're looking to make sure that we respect the customer's home and we respect our trucks and we respect our warehouse and we respect our desks, you have to start by when you first walk in. This is where we respect this. This is where the first impression that we leave our current employees. So number one is our current employees, okay?
Yeah.
It's basically a training system that lets people know that we believe and we have a value system that believes in order and cleanliness, right? And so you walk into the warehouse, it's always pristine. You walk into the front office when you first enter into the building, it's pristine as well too. Make sense?
Exactly.
So this sets the tone for the rest of the company.
Yep.
So all current employees, to me, it's the first training system of how we normally attend to business when it comes to organization.
Yeah, exactly. And then and future employees would really be...
So people who are applying for a job. So if you're applying for a job and you could be weighing between joining one company and another company, you have to ask yourself, do you want to... You walk into a place and it has an etched glass logo of a wall that's a solid frosted glass with a logo of your company on it, with a comfortable chair and maybe a refrigerator with some beverages in it and a flat screen TV playing some video of your current employees when they're in their normal activities that they have in the day-to-day life, and you're saying, wow, this place has really got their stuff together, as opposed to you walk into the other place that you're applying for and that place just has a box of black fittings or some old thermostat sitting on the window sill, you know what I'm saying there?
Exactly.
And you're like, this place is garbage. I can't work here.
Yeah.
And so when a prospective, listen, in today's world, one of the biggest things I'm hearing is it's hard to find good employees, right? What are we communicating with these employees when they first walk into our place? And Julie, if I had a nickel for every contracting owner who said, everything went well over the phone, but then we brought them into our business and had a talk with them, and then they decided not to take the job. So it was fine before they got there. This is the message you're receiving. When the employee got there, he was fine and ready to start with your company. By the time he walked through that front entrance, he learned everything he needed to know about the way you do business. And he's probably thinking, wow, if they can't even keep this front entrance pristine and clean? How are they going to do the payroll every week the right way?
Yeah.
How are they going to make sure I got the right tools? How are they going to make sure the insurance is paid up?
Right.
You know, this communicates everything to a new employee. And if I had a choice between joining one company who appeared to be very successful and the other company who appeared they don't have their self together, definitely I would want to join the company that looked like they had their stuff together. Make sense?
Unless you didn't have your stuff together too.
Yeah, I guess the only people it would appeal to is somebody who's a slob.
Exactly.
So if you're trying to hire sloppy people who don't care about their appearance or organizing themselves, then consider it job well done. Leave it like it would be.
Yeah.
But if you have designed yourself with an entrance, maybe with a company logo on the wall, a sign that has been made by a professional sign maker, or a etched glass with the company's logo put into it, some of the awards you've won for excellence, maybe put up there, a comfortable place to sit. Yet you notice there's no people out here. There may not be any people in that kind of an environment because this is not the kind of place you would just walk in and bother other employees, right? So that's another part of that environment. Julie, let's talk about, so we have employees, future employees. Who else are we looking at?
We have clients might walk in.
Client might walk in and have a question. It's like, whoa, this place, I can see why it costs as much as it does, right? They might say this place is really nice, you know? Then you've also got like family members of current employees, maybe stopping in for an insurance paperwork or something like that. And you're sending a message to the wife of the guy who works for you when your message is that this place is a mess. The wife is like, he needs to find a new job. This place is terrible. This place smells. It's no good, you know? And so family members can have an influence. And how about vendors, too?
Oh, definitely vendors.
Are vendors secretly, I mean, I'm not saying they actively do this, but they are able to actively guide customers as well as future employees to our company. Let me just tell you something. If you're not getting vendors who are referring future employees to your company, or you're not getting any referrals to your company from your vendors, you know, that your territory rep is not sending customers your way, he probably would say, based on what I'm seeing, I wouldn't send anybody over here.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Exactly.
So the front entrance, you know, let me just say something. You could instantly improve your company and stop this whole webinar right now if you just took charge of that area that was probably 10 foot by 15 foot or 10 foot by 12 foot when you first walked into the building, and you gave a great impression about what the company's about. Make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
I think that's a good point. I was going to say, too, I
good.
wanted to add to that, let's say if you belong to associations, kind of popped in my mind, maybe you're part of the... what do you call that? The small business associations in the area or the Chamber of Commerce. You might have people out to your place, and the last thing you really want to be doing is their potential customers or potential referrers, you know, in this matter. So definitely you want to have a place that they're going to feel comfortable referring people to you.
Now, many shops have a situation where there's somebody who is like the customer service rep answering the phone is right there in the front entrance. I disagree with that. I believe that the entrance should be a place that should be away from the customer service team. It should be something where you enter in. You might have a telephone that you could say dial 0 for somebody to if you have an appointment, dial 0 to let us know you're here, or dial 0 to make the appointment.
Or you could just have a camera up in front, so if you see somebody coming in, it alerts the person who's in charge of going up there, so they can go up in the front and take care of them.
Good point. Well, I think you have to make a decision for yourself in your company whether you want everybody to stop their work when somebody walks in, or do you want the work to continue and then have that person make an appointment, or, you know, what's the importance here of our business? Is our business done by people calling us on the phone and us booking calls and then that part of it? Or do we just stop everything when somebody just walks in, type of thing? Make sense? And so whether a vendor walks in, whether it's an employee, whatever it is, we should have a definite. Now, we could even have a sign, job applicants do this first, you know, fill out this paperwork first. You know, could have customers hit 0 and we will make an appointment, or we'll come out and greet, somebody will come out to greet you. You could also have a flat screen TV, again, playing things like customer testimonials, or maybe a profile of one of your service techs talking about what this company's all about. And
or
that
you
kind
may
of
have
thing.
somebody sit up in the front and attend to anybody walking in who has that type of a job that they can do that. So, for
Right.
instance, maybe you have some part timers who come in and handle some of the grassroots marketing or sending out thank you cards or things like that. Something where they're not answering the phones and you don't have to make a decision between answering the phone and greeting the customer at the front. Somebody who has a position where, they're working on projects maybe, and they can be there part of the time helping out in that situation.
Well, the bottom line is
Just a suggestion.
that's good. Well, the bottom line is that you need to make sure that there's a specific staff member that has been assigned to either handle the job applicants or somebody who's going to handle customers when they come in or somebody who's going to talk to a vendor when they come in. So the specific people in the company, it just shouldn't be anybody going out there, because what you don't want to have is like your bookkeeper who's upset because she's in the middle doing some paperwork and then she goes out there to greet a customer and she's got this look on her face like she's being interrupted. You know what I'm saying? Her. So ahead of time, you should be planning on who are the people we want to greet: job seekers, employees, customers. Who are the people we want to have access to that area to make sure we're doing that. Make sense? So make that assignment. Now let's move on to the call center, which is one of the most important environments. This is the area where we are answering the phone and scheduling calls. And I think, as I always say, the answer to every situation in this is to book every call. Julie, let's go over some of the highlights of the CSR stuff. We've got to move kind of quick here. We spent a lot of time on that entrance, but I think it is a key component of the company. It is worth it. What's the next thing? The call center, Julie. What's some of the key things?
Well, the
there?
biggest thing about the call center is making sure that that center is isolated from the dispatcher area and the technician area, right? We want to make sure that they're not in that position where they can kind of go back and forth, or not so much that they're going to bother other people, but probably more likely people are going to bother them when they should really be on the phones and booking the calls.
Yeah, you don't want to hear conversations of service technicians in the background or some dispatcher having a stern conversation with a service tech. Those are very uncomfortable for customers. So isolation of the CSR department. This should be a locked environment, which does not allow people to just drop into this environment.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Exactly. Some other things. Want me to add some?
Go ahead.
I'm
Keep
just gonna throw them out
keep
there,
going,
and
Julie,
since we got to kind of fill in the gaps there with stuff, you would probably want the place to be, bright and cheery and uplifting for them. You don't want some dark, unlit, room that they're going to be doing their work in. When this is the face of your company, this is the first time that people are interacting with your company, so you need cheerful people. And I think most cheerful people, do not work in dark rooms. So you want something like that. You want to make sure that they have a clean, clear desk, uncluttered desk, not something filled with a lot of personal items necessarily out on the desk. Not that you can't have some personal items, but the last thing you need is a desk that's cluttered, and you can't, even get to your keyboard or find your mouse in that situation.
Another important factor, Julie, is that you want to make sure that all the calls that are being answered for the company for customer requests, all calls that come into the company are answered in this environment. You're not allowed just to pick up a phone when you're out in the warehouse or in the dispatch area and start taking customer calls. I mean, if you're going to take customer calls, you need to sit in this environment so you have all the scripts and all the things, the tools available to you to book the call the right way.
Right, and that's a big one because there are a lot of people who don't necessarily agree with that, who go the route of having the phone ring from one desk to the next. So if your customer service can't pick it up, now you have it going to your, inventory person, or now you have it going to your bookkeeper. And, unless those people are truly trained and have all the tools available to them to be able to do that job, it's not something that I would recommend.
Well, basically, you're taking the most important part of the company. Let me just say something, Julie. Answering the phone is probably the most important thing that we do in a company, because unless we take that caller that comes in with the information request and turn them into a buyer, there's nothing we can do in the company. We can't get new trucks because we don't have enough calls. We can't hire another service tech. Where am I going to do the service tech? We're not booking the call. So as we schedule more calls, we need to hire more people, get more trucks, purchase more inventory, get more managers. We need to hire more outside services to train our people. We need to increase the size of our building and our business because we're expanding. And even the bookkeeper, the very person who says we can't afford to do anything wouldn't be possible because there would be no books to keep if you aren't answering and converting that call. You know what I'm saying there? And
Exactly.
so many people they take the most important part of the company and they just say, yeah, let anybody do it. And there's no design to how it gets done. They just assume that anybody knows how to answer the phone and book the call. The truth is, when people are untrained, you're looking at a conversion rate somewhere about 30 to 40%. You know, and then you hear a lot of people say, well, that was just a price shopper, or that was that part. The reason is they weren't concentrating in that environment. They were basically doing bookkeeping 1 second. A customer calls asking for a price of a thermocouple, and they give them the price or just say they don't know the price, and then the customer hangs up, and then that was it. Nobody knew about it, and it was a silent death that happened.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying there? So the reason for the isolation and the purpose of this environment is so as a manager, you can see the activities, and you can see that things are being accomplished here, and we're actually scheduling the calls. Because the goal of this environment is to keep that schedule full.
Yep,
Make sense?
exactly.
Now I know you guys might think it always is full, but let's face it, the contracting business is kind of bipolar. Sometimes it's easy to keep the schedule full. Other times you wish you had calls coming in, and then you act like there's no way we could keep it full. In those off seasons, those shoulder seasons, you got to make sure that you're prepared to concentrate on booking that call. Make sense?
Exactly.
Other things, Julie, I have in that environment, just real quick: a job description, scripts to answer the phone the right way, a priority score sheet so you can prioritize the thing, you know, computer with the different scripts on the computer, or maybe a way to book the calls, a work order ready to go. You could have a flat screen TV so that you can see all the calls that the dispatcher is telling you to reschedule or delay. That's what that environment would look like. Basically, what it would look like is a tray, and I would say no doors and no drawers in this environment. You don't want any place to hide things. Everything should be above the table. Nothing should be hidden away. If you're going to have a computer, have it on top of the table. If you're going to have a script, on top of the table. You're going to have a drink tray where your personal drinks can go, put that on top of the table. There's no place to hide anything. You see what I'm saying there?
Yep, I totally agree.
And that's that. So make sure this environment is well lit, like you said, and positive, and that's a big part of it. So one thing I would say is that every one of the environments I'm going to believe in is that they should have a line drawing of what the environment should look like. So once you design the environment for a customer service desk, make a line drawing as to where everything should go on that desk and what should be in that room. Remember, here's the biggest thing that kills the customer service environment is putting too much stuff at the discretion of an employee
Yes.
and not designing it the way the company wants it designed.
Yep.
Let's all remember one thing. This is the company's desk, not your desk. You are working at the company. This is not your family. This is the company you work for. So when you go home, you could do anything you want to your own home. You can move the curtains around, change the couch. You do that a lot, Julie. You change the furniture just for the fun of it. I come home, it's a completely different room. And that's fine when you're at home.
It's a little pastime of mine.
It is. You love doing that. But when you are at work, the environment has to stay the same because it has been designed to stay that way. And you have to. Everybody should collaborate to see if we want to change that design. So if you want to change the design, don't just do it on your own. Make sure that everybody's on the same page.
And I think that's one of the things that most people don't realize is that there, is a whole industry of people out there who help design workflow spaces. And so when you do find a design that works for you in your particular space, then you need to stick with it. And it's like you're saying, it's not a good idea when people start changing it around. There's a certain reason we have the desks a certain height, or we have certain chairs, or we have certain computers, or we have dividers in between there, and they're a certain height, to keep the noise down. So when you start adding or taking things away from that, then it makes things more difficult for everybody, not just yourself. So, and as you said, it is the company's, equipment or desk. So it should be something that's left the way that they, want it designed.
Another key thing is everything should be labeled. So for instance, your keyboard should have a label on the thing. Keyboard should be here. You have a drink tray, put drink tray. Should label it. That's where drinks go in that tray. You're going to have family photographs on the wall. Put a label on the wall. That's where they go in that area there. Family photographs. Define the environment from a standpoint of drawing it out and designing it, and also make sure that design stays clear. And also, you could do posters like job description posters. You can remind yourself the priorities of this job, answering the call, handling customer concerns, outbound marketing, things that you would do on this job. Make sure you make that priority list big so people can say, when I run out of things to do, here's my task, my list of things I'm supposed to do in this job.
Yes.
To make sure that that's around. So every job should have a job priority list located in that environment. The customer service environment, we're just starting with that, but label every single thing. This way you know that where it belongs when you see it. Now, if you wouldn't label it, then you probably shouldn't have it in the environment. One thing I would say is no Post-it notes, no scratch paper. If you want to have message forms that have been designed by the company, so you have a way of doing that, then you get message forms. You want to have customer concern forms, whether it's on your computer or in a real paper format. How about baskets for the workflow? If you're going to design, you're going to file away tickets in this job, to make sure that there's incoming tickets, tickets in progress, tickets to be filed away. So the workflow in this job should be designed with baskets and things that you need, and only the things you need. Make sure of that. There shouldn't be some kind of a catalog or some kind of a magazine that's sitting around. If you're going to have magazines, then put a label on it that say, here's where our magazines go. If you don't think the company should have magazines, or they should be up in the entryway and the entrance, or maybe in the conference room, then maybe that's where the magazines should go. They shouldn't go there. Make sense?
Yep.
And one other thing, no background music or radios at this point. You want to make sure this is a quiet environment. Nothing in the background where people can hear you discussing other issues about the company, or music in the background when people are answering the phone.
Yep.
Make sense? And that's that part. So the last thing on that was separate. One last thing, answering the phone is one environment, and then if you're going to do other things like mailers or other types of activities, sending out postcards or referral cards and things like that, then you would have a separate project desk where everybody could work in the customer service community. So let's say you had 3 people answering the phone. They would all have their own desk to answer the phone with all the right tools. Then there'd be a separate desk that would have projects such as mailers, referral cards, planned service, welcome to planned service cards, sending out mailers to people. That would all be at a separate desk.
Yep.
Make
exactly.
sense?
Yes.
And that's the customer service desk. Now remember, the customer service rep only deals with customer service, and you do not talk to technicians unless they're going to be scheduling a call for the customer. Make sense? Moving on to the next environment. What's the next one, Julie?
Dispatching environment. And the dispatching environment is all the stuff that you described there is very similar in the dispatching environment, starting with making sure that you're isolating the dispatching environment for everything else from all the other departments. The last thing that you want is for technicians walking in behind the dispatcher and looking at the screen.
Yeah, I'd say schedule security is big. You don't want technicians looking at the schedule and trying to figure out when they're going to get off work tonight.
Exactly.
Make sense?
Exactly.
Because the schedule is only what's happening right now. It's not what's happening in the future. There might be other calls coming in. So a technician says, oh, look, there's only 2 calls. I better slow it down. Next thing you know, 15 calls come in, and now the guy's just slowing down for no reason at all.
Exactly.
Because he saw the schedule.
Exactly. So as you mentioned, you might want to have a door that locks, so this way people are just not walking right into the dispatching area and looking at their stuff. Same with isolating from CSRs. CSRs generally we don't let them see the schedule at all. That's a communication that goes on between the dispatcher and the CSR. But if the CSR has access to the dispatching room, it's very easy for them to come in and go, oh, whoa, I see we got a ton of calls on the schedule. I'm not going to book any more right now at this point. Where really, that may not be the case, or things change, or you may just not have gotten around to scheduling placing the schedule, the clients where they need to go. So to them, it may look like a booked schedule screen, but it's really not. So you want to make sure that dispatcher is isolated, and you don't have people just walking in and taking a look at that schedule. Is really a big one there.
The only person who should see the schedule other than the dispatcher is the owner or manager. That's basically it.
Exactly.
One other thing I was going to say was about some of the technology where a dispatcher would have 2 screens. Sometimes you have the normal dispatch screen with the normal dispatch board. Another thing people do sometimes now are putting flat screen TVs so you can see the GPS of the whole area. Maybe buying a 60-inch GPS so you can see the entire county or the entire area with all your trucks on it. Having GPS-enabled phones for all your employees, because one thing I would say a dispatcher needs to know at all times, one thing that's inexcusable is that a dispatcher should know where all field people are at all times. So if the owner comes and says, hey, where's Billy, the parts delivery guy? You look out there and say, oh, he's right here at the shop. You know exactly where he's at. So with today's technology, there's no excuse not to know where everybody's at. At a minimum, the dispatcher should know where all the field human assets are to be able to make sure if we need them, we dispatch them to a different place.
Yeah,
Make sense?
exactly. So all the other things too, making sure. Oh well, in the dispatching room, we're keeping things kind of calm. So in the customer service room, we might keep it more brighter. We'll keep it brighter, so to keep things kind of bright and light. Dispatching room, you want a little calmer, so you might use like some greens, on the wall. Keep it a calm kind of environment for them.
Instead of track lighting, you might have recessed lighting where you can't see the fixture, you just see the light on the thing.
Yeah.
Incandescent or a yellower type of light. More
Exactly. So keep things calm there because they are dealing with a lot of stress, and that's being that they're like command control in that situation. So you want to make sure you don't overexcite them too much. But all the other things go into place just as customer service, where no clutter on the desk, making sure they have their job description or their script book. They do have some scripts that they would
communicate with
technicians or communicating with the customers, letting them know that we're on the way. Making sure that they have, all their other tools available to them as well. Any their phones or any excess cell phones or radios or pagers or whatever you may be using in this particular situation are all important things. And labeling everything as well. Particularly, I think the dispatch should have things labeled because you have generally in that area equipment that goes out to technicians, like cell phones or that kind of thing, or chargers. So you want to make sure that you're labeling everything there for sure. So if somebody loses a charger or it's misplaced or it's damaged, you know exactly which one that is and how to replace it. So I think that's a big one in the dispatching area.
Right. Well, other than that, that's about it. We do talk about the same thing with the priority score, using the priority scores so they have the communication with the customer service rep. And again, the line drawing of the desk. Now, one thing I did mention here is that there should be another workstation for another dispatcher. So in case we need to add a dispatcher when it gets busy, instead of having two people, again, I don't really believe that you should be dispatching people from another room, because now the communication between the two dispatchers will be impaired.
Exactly.
And you're going to have one dispatcher thinking they did this. So when you're adding a dispatcher to the equation, don't have the owner in the back end just doing his thing and starting to do things behind the dispatcher's back. Go in the dispatch room, and there should be an expandable workstation where a second dispatcher could come in and say, I'll take care of the plumbers, you take care of the HVAC guys, and then I'll touch base. I'll ask you a question about a few of your calls I see, and I'm going to ask you a few questions about those things. So you collaborate on that. You don't just, in the back end in a different office, start to change things on a schedule, because that's a good way to frustrate your dispatcher.
It is. It really is a good way to do that. So when you don't have that communication, which goes
back to the whole thing, Julie, about customer service and dispatch. So many times I see people say, I take the call and I put it right on the schedule. Like the CSR takes the call and assigns a service tech. So they're doing the dispatch. I call it dummy dispatching. Their customer service rep is taking the call and placing it in the guy's schedule, unaware of the fact that everybody else is taking calls at the same time and doing the same thing. And next thing you know, it's like not one person controlling that. So listen, there's one person in control of the schedule. That's the dispatcher. There's other people who fill up the schedule. That's customer service. You don't want people behind the scenes messing with either one of those two things. Because if you take the call information the wrong way, I want to come back to customer service and help you improve and tell you what I want to see improve.
Right.
And if you dispatch the call the wrong way, I want to come back into that room and tell you what I want to see improve.
And I think that
when everybody does it, I don't know who to talk to. It's too many people that have their fingers in the pie, and that creates confusion and chaos. And this is the state of the service contracting business. 90% of the time, when people don't think about this stuff, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody just does everything. So we didn't just let techs randomly come in. The tech has to come in as they're invited by the dispatcher. And the dispatcher would invite different techs to come in throughout the day to hand in their paperwork. You would inspect the paperwork, you would restock the trucks, and you would inspect the truck to make sure that the maintenance has been done, the oil's been changed, and the dipstick has been looked at, and to make sure the stock and inventory is all on the shelves to make sure that there is it's free of trash. Now, one thing you can do to help that is create a small trash bin for every truck in the cab. So when you're driving and doing your work in the job, if you want to throw out your cup, you throw it in the garbage can. If you have like I say, a kitchen-sized garbage can in the back of the truck, so if they have boxes and stuff, they can put it in that can and then empty that can in the dumpster every single day. Make sense? So make it easy and ergonomic to take care of this. Don't leave it to the discretion that everybody would know that they should get a trash. I mean, for a $9 trash can, it would save you, 15 hours of cleanup work later on. Let
Yep.
me just tell you that right now.
Yep.
So please get yourself, and by the way, label that trash can about where it should go so everybody knows where that should be as well too. Julie, we've got the small trash can. The shelves in the back of the truck should be numbered with inventory numbers, and those numbers should match the numbers in the warehouse. So every truck should have part numbers and locations with a list, or a template, or a list of all the parts and what location that they're in
And
the
the
truck.
quantities.
And the quantity that we should have in every truck. So every truck should have an inventory, complete inventory designed with part numbers, and those part numbers should be on the shelves, and those parts should match the numbers that are on the shelves. Make sense? The truck inspections are performed every single day, and there are oil changes should be scheduled on the service schedule with the dispatcher, so the dispatcher remembers every 3 months to get the oils changed. And again, a line drawing of the truck as to what goes where in the truck, so everybody knows what it looks like.
Yep.
And like you said, Julie, a prototype of what a good truck looks like that hangs in the warehouse. So when you do see that truck, you say, does that look like that one in the warehouse? Make sense?
It makes it pretty easy to point to the big photograph hanging from the rafters.
And one rule I could tell you can do to make you say, how do you get these trucks clean? Well, here's the rule. Calls can only be dispatched when that truck is clean. So as soon as that truck is clean, you now can get another call. If the truck is not clean, the first time I'm going to pay you to go ahead and clean it. But the second time, you're on your own time, because I paid you at the end of a call to put that stuff in the trash can, not to throw it on the floor of your truck.
And I think that's the really the true rule is to do it on a regular basis. So as you mentioned, when they come in to turn in their paperwork, that's now our time that they take 15 to 30 minutes to clean out the truck. Usually it's 15 minutes. It's pretty quick. So, because when you're doing it on a daily basis, it's pretty easy to keep your truck pretty clean at that point. So, but if you're not doing that, if you're going to wait till the end of the week after you've accumulated, all the garbage, or if you're installing, who knows what the heck's in the back of that truck at that point, right? So if you accumulate it all at the end of the week and then try to do it, now it's going to take a couple of hours to do it. So let's do it each day as you're turning in paperwork, or if you're, if you come in each day to get your truck, you should be doing it the night before. So the night before you're turning in your truck, clean out your truck before you go home, and now you don't have to worry about it for the next day.
Completely
if you
agree.
didn't do it for some reason, maybe you had a late night, it was dark, you couldn't see, before you go out in the morning, go on in 15 minutes early and clean out your truck.
Now we move on to the warehouse environment. Julie.
Yeah.
Now the warehouse environment, there's two environments. There's the environment where the technicians interact with the warehouse person, and then there is the parts area. So the first part of it, Julie, you want to read that first one?
Sure.
What does it say?
The parts are locked, secure, and isolated from the field staff, so they eliminate the opportunity for any kind of theft.
So no theft should be. So you wonder why you're losing parts? Well, because you're giving people the opportunity to walk right in and take them. So the biggest mistake that people make with the inventory is that they are not securing the inventory as if it was a supermarket.
Yes.
Make sense?
Exactly.
So think of yourself as sort of a Johnstone supply right in your own shop. And you've seen many times some of the Johnstone or some of the other vendors have actually located shops in bigger places. But in a way, you're kind of doing that same environment, creating a counter, a desk, a place where we can interact with the service techs, but where the parts are locked behind the cage or behind a closed door.
Behind a closed door or wall or
Make
some
sense?
type of thing. Yes, exactly.
And say no
It's not like
techs.
we're a Walmart where you should be able to walk in and freely go through.
And so you got the place where we interact with service techs as they order parts and they hand in their paperwork, and then we have the warehouse where the parts are at. Here's the big thing. No techs are allowed in either of those environments unless the dispatcher has told the inventory person that they're here. So it has to be a way that you have a phone or something on you, part of your environment, to communicate with your dispatcher to make sure that if anybody comes in, you should look at your phone first to see if you were texted or you were told that this guy's coming. If you weren't told he's supposed to be here, you should text the dispatcher or call her and say, hey, I have John here. Is he supposed to turn in his paperwork? And she might say, I forgot to tell you. Or she might say, no, he should be over in the northern part of the town or whatever. He shouldn't be here at all.
Yep.
Tell him to get going.
Exactly.
So the bottom line is that the inventory person has to communicate with the dispatcher frequently when they see people just kind of wandering around in that environment. Make sense?
Then you have the techs and the field staff are not allowed to just drop in. They have to be invited
That's
in.
exactly
right?
what we're
That's what
talking
you're
about there, yeah.
So then separate desks located outside the secured parts area and where the one is located, where the text can
Right.
communicate.
It's just like at a supply house. You got the desk where we talk to people and we communicate with the people we're providing the materials to, and then we have the parts located in a separate room where nobody can just go steal them. Basically,
Exactly,
okay?
exactly.
We've got the special order parts shelf. So if you people did order parts for a specific job, you have a shelf with locations on that. You could also have the job description posterized. So here's how you hand in your service tickets, a list of things I need when you hand your service tickets.
I think that's a big one because I think, if you want, again, it makes it easy for a lower level employee to point to something and say, here's what I need. As to sometimes it can be kind of intimidating in those situations where a technician is just throwing all this paperwork at you and now you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put this together for you. It's like, hey, this is what I need. I need it just in this order. I need, your timesheet on the top. I need your tickets underneath. I need the money attached like this. So however it is that you do it, or whatever paperwork it is that they need to turn in, it's in a certain order, and that's what they're turning into. And it makes it easy for somebody to say that, or for somebody who doesn't do that job and maybe is stepping in for the day to go, oh, okay, this is what they're expecting. This is what I need.
Well, either way, this is the place where a technician interacts with the company. So you got two different places a technician will interact. One is maybe a conference room where we have meetings and training. Another place is to go in the inventory to hand in your paperwork, get your parts, and get the truck clean. Because in this environment, you've also got a situation where you're going to have all the shop cleaning materials to keep the truck clean, a shop vac, all that kind of stuff, Armor All. That's all going to be located in a tote that you can give every technician to go clean the truck. But as you're checking in the paperwork, you can check in the paperwork. One of the key things here is take the technician's keys from him, hang them on a hook so he can't run away with the parts bin.
Right. So if you were to explain that whole process from the beginning, what would happen is the dispatcher would say, okay, I need you to come on in and turn in your paperwork. She would then notify your inventory person that Joe is coming in to turn in his paperwork. When the technician got there, he should be handing the keys to the inventory person, and the inventory person should be handing them a cleaning tote along with any parts that they need to restock on their truck at that point, right? So aside from the keys, you'd also be handing them.
And they got that list of parts that restocked from the dispatcher yesterday.
Right, exactly.
As the calls were being completed, the dispatcher should be sending along a list of materials that need to be restocked.
And that's how the job gets done so quickly in just a 15-minute time, because as I'm checking your paperwork and going through it, you're cleaning out your truck for the company. You're spending that 15 minutes cleaning out your truck and throwing any garbage away and restocking your parts. Now when you're done, as the inventory person, I've checked through your paperwork, so if everything's good there, I'm going to say, okay, you're good. Now let's go check your truck and make sure that it was all cleaned, and then he'll go and check your truck. But if the paperwork then at that point is not right, then you can say, you know what, you didn't fill this warranty paperwork out that I need. Can you go ahead and do that at this point?
Now, this brings up a couple interesting places for technology again. A flat screen television could be placed, so when the dispatcher could, again, just like the dispatcher communicates to customer service that we need to reschedule or delay these calls using a flat screen TV, she could also type in, here's the technicians coming in, what time they're going to be scheduled to come in. She could let the inventory person know on a flat screen TV.
Yeah.
One other piece of technology is you can now have cameras that you can actually look at your cell phone and see what's on the camera. So putting cameras around the outside of the facility to monitor what technicians are doing out there. So if you have an unsavory person who's maybe stealing the copper from your air conditioning units, or maybe somebody who's hanging out the back.
Maybe you just don't know you have an unsavory person, and this is how you find out.
It might be an unsavory person dealing drugs in the back of your warehouse, in the back behind your warehouse. You'd be able to see it. So one thing you can do is you can get these cameras around the outside of your facility, and then have it wired into your cell phone, so you can actually just look at your cell phone and see what's going on. So if in case you're like wondering, kind of a dead moment, just check out the cameras and see who's out there in the back warehouse.
I was going to say from the
and also the dispatcher could have that tool as well to make sure that who's out there in the. They could monitor that same closed circuit television.
That might be another. Maybe it's not on their phone. Maybe they just have a third screen that's up all the time.
Monitor that part of it. Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say from the screens on the wall, another good thing. is you could have all your installations up there on the day
That's
in
true.
inventory. Or even if, depending on who's making your purchase orders in the company, you might have a purchase order was made for this, and that goes on the screen as well for inventory, so they know now, oh, this is a purchase order, and there's a special part that was ordered, or something that was ordered that I should be expecting in at this point, so.
Got it. Well, moving on to the bookkeeper, Julie.
Okay.
Now, the bookkeeper, again, is isolated from the staff so they can maintain their focus on getting that job done. Again, the bookkeeper is not somebody who should be answering the phone. They shouldn't be dispatching. They should be getting the incoming paperwork for receivables and payables to make sure all the money has been collected and deposited, and also to make sure vendors are paid and aged properly, and also make sure payroll is being figured out. So that's a bookkeeper's three functions: receivables, payables, payroll. Those three things. And
Might
so,
be deposits.
well, deposits would be part of receivables. That's what I would say.
Right, yeah, you said
So,
receivables.
so receivables will be the money coming in, the money going out for vendors, paying people the money, and then one of the biggest payments, and it's not a payable, is a special payable, which is payroll every week. And so basically, all the baskets and tools you would need. So what would it look like at a bookkeeper's desk? You'd have a basket with incoming timesheets if you're doing it that way. Now, if it's electronic, you don't have to have baskets. It'd be something on your computer,
Sure.
right? If you had incoming invoices, paper invoices that are coming in from vendors, then you'd put those paper invoices, incoming from vendors, paper invoices. Match invoices to be matched with purchase orders. Purchase orders, invoices to be filed away, if that would be part of that. So basically, it's a very simple environment. There's three main jobs. And by the way, don't take on some other task here. This is the same type of thing. We have a problem in all these departments. Everybody taking on something that's inappropriate, right? So with this type of thing, the job description, you have the software for noting your payroll and the receivables and the payables. One big thing to prove you're doing this job right, I said there's three parts: receivables, payables, and So here's the things I like to see to make sure a bookkeeper is doing their job. Number one, to make sure that the employees always let you know if the payroll is being done correctly. So I don't really need to get a payroll report, but it is part of my profit and loss statement. So here's what I'm looking. I like to see every single week on the Tuesday following every week, and even every single day. You might have two different boards: one for the daily numbers and one for the weekly numbers. So a weekly profit and loss statement generated to say how much was sold last week, how much was deposited. That would tell you if people are on the receivables part of it. Number two, what was the payroll? So that tells you the payroll. Number three, what were the materials? So now you did the receivable or the payables. You got that's all been accounted for right now. And then you have your gross profit for the week. And then you have your overhead, and then you have your profit. Do we make money this week or not? That's a report that every single week. Now here's the thing: bookkeepers love to not do that job. They love to claim that they're too busy to get that job done. But to me, Julie, there's nothing that a bookkeeper should be doing other than making sure that they're keeping the score and putting it on the scoreboard so we can all see how things are going.
Yeah.
So if you have an actual full-time person doing this job, now I understand not getting that score when you don't have those people. In my company, we used to break it up. The dispatcher provided us a receivable because they're the person who watched the money coming in. I said, you provide me how much money came in, how much did we deposit. I'll check out the deposits. You get the numbers, how much we should be having coming in. I'll tell you how much I deposited. I'll figure that out myself. Then in a smaller company, then you had the money coming in from receivables. We enter those bills in. We know how much money we spent this week and how much materials there were, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. So the bookkeeper should be generating this report to me every single day. It should be one screen that goes in the manager's office that says, here's our daily report, and it's just up there. Here's what we're doing right now to date, today, the progress today, like a dashboard. And then Tuesday of the following week, here's what our performance was last week. Well, and it just goes up there, and it stays up there all week, so we know where we're at. Make sense?
Yep, exactly.
That's part of it there. So the separate environment, truck and where am I at here? Well, the profit and loss statement, the bookkeeper doesn't tell the owner. Here's one thing I say: the bookkeeper is not in charge of telling the owner what they can and can't afford. The bookkeeper is in charge of telling the owner what we need if you're going to purchase something like that. So if you need to purchase a truck, the bookkeeper should be able to tell you, here's how much more we need to make in order to do that. They shouldn't be saying, no, don't do that, or don't get involved with that. Don't take that training. Don't buy a truck. Don't do that advertising. They just have to say, well, if you did the advertising program, you're saying it would take this much revenue to make that happen. That's what the bookkeeper should be doing.
Yes.
Makes sense? And that's real quick. Moving on to the final one is the owner or manager. Julie, you want to comment on this one?
Yep. Again, the isolation is really the first thing in this area, where we start off by isolating the owner and manager from the other
So the
areas.
office should be isolated, yet the owner and manager have to go in and check in. Like they're gonna be mobile, go on their own and going out. You're gonna visit other environments, right? So we're not saying that you want to hide in the ivory tower.
No,
But if you're
not
gonna
at all.
have a meeting with other employees, you're gonna look at the numbers. That's something that should have some privacy to it. Make sense? Your own place to do your own business.
Yep.
If you're gonna make some phone calls to talk to a consultant, or maybe consider hiring another employee. That's something you need to do behind closed doors, not in front of the rest of the staff. Make
Yep,
sense?
exactly.
So isolate the activities that need to be isolated, and then go out and get mobile and visit other environments. If you
Well, I
want
think it's
to.
important that the owner and manager visit with each area every single day. But like you say, you have this area of privacy then that you can go back and do the things that you need to do in private.
So in an office environment for an owner, you'd have a separate conference environment where you could have meetings with people. Just if it might just be you and another guy next to the desk, type of thing, right? You
Yep.
could have a conference table located in the room. I've seen that before too. No personal clutter. Again, this is an opportunity to show leadership. No personal clutter. Listen, every single place, the truck, the CSR, the district, we said no personal clutter anywhere. So don't start by bringing your old football helmet when you played college football and sticking it on your. Listen, put that on a shelf somewhere and put it there so it's part of your showcase, not on your desk where you're doing work.
Yep.
Make sense?
Exactly.
What else we got there, Julie?
Next is, I thought this one was interesting, a lighted phone system that does not ring, but yet lights up when the phone is ringing.
Yeah, so you can see something happening when somebody's calling, but you don't have to get up and answer it while you're having a meeting.
Yeah.
Because nothing's worse than you talking to the owner about your future of you and the company, and then he gets up to answer a phone with somebody who's maybe an insurance guy or something like that.
Right, exactly.
It really doesn't show current employees that you're very important
Well,
there, right?
I think it one, the owner has a tendency to want to pick up the phone, some of the times, and two, it's just a disruption, like you're saying. when
I
you're
think
having meetings.
coaching logs to track the different assignments that you've given to employees. If you're managing, you should be coaching. You should be giving people assignments to improve every single week. That's the main job of an owner or manager, to make sure people are improving on something. That nobody's static. We're not happy with the status quo. You show me somebody who's happy with the way things are going, and I'll show you a losing company. That's
Yeah,
what I'll tell you.
yeah, exactly.
Then we also have files of previous applicants, the company, the job applications that came in. We also might have a situation we need the paperwork for those people, line drawing of your desk and what goes on in that desk. And basically, I had one too at the baskets with the time quadrants, the Stephen Covey time management, which is important and urgent, important but not urgent, not important and urgent, and not important and not urgent, in those 4 different quadrants of time management. That's a really good thing to have on your desk. That probably could pretty much take everything that's coming in and say, where does this belong in my day? Look up that and study that, and it'll help you a lot of ways. But basically, it's
and the
an-
other thing you have in here is the flat screen TV, again, with your numbers being projected on. I
Yeah,
think
the
that's a
bookkeeper
great
providing those numbers so you can see the numbers in real time.
one. Exactly.
Wow, Julie, I think we are just about running out of time here. Anything else you want to do to recap this thing? I mean, there's other environments that you could create, but these are the little theme parks inside your company.
Yeah, you mentioned before even the parking lot, which is its own theme park in and of itself. Something where definitely line drawing can really help on how things should go.
Yeah.
Something as simple as even if you've noticed, as of recently, all the Starbucks redoing themselves, that they actually put arrows going into their drive-through sections, which you would think would not be needed, but apparently it must be. It's go this way, we don't want you going the other way. So something as simple as that is putting arrows down, saying this is the way we come in and this is the way we go out. So those are other areas to think of as well.
Well, Julie, I think we've just about wrapped this whole subject up. If you have any questions or comments, just call Joe or Julie. Email us at info@contractorselling.com. That's info@contractorselling.com. And we'd be happy to talk to you about how you can improve your environment. Other than that, that's all for now. We'll see you next time on our next business webinar.